Well, I think it's time for episode 3, everybody. This one will be about an ex who I'm actually still friends with to this day. He has improved a lot upon himself, and while he did do a lot of things wrong in our relationship and decade long friendship, I have seen his improvement and I'm proud of him. So, for this episode, I'll be skipping the What If I Ran Into Them Again segment as it will be unneeded for this specific story. Refresher, the video format before we move on to the story itself. The video will go in order of how we started dating and what led up to it, the events that happened in the relationship, how and why we broke up, and if anything happened afterwards. I won't be delving into super recent stuff that happened between us besides our current dynamic, just stuff closer to the timeline of the relationship. Now, onto the story. I'll be calling this Ex Florigato after the middle evolution of Sprigatito, as that's the starter he chose in his copy of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Fun tidbit, I chose Fuecoco in mine. Florigato was a new student the year of 6th grade around springtime. At the time of this, I had been crushing on the person I dubbed Chadot from the Crushes and Flings video, which can also be found on this channel. Being decently extroverted but also really awkward around new people, I didn't approach Florigato myself, but I could tell he was interested in me friend-wise. I'd constantly catch him staring at my friends and I knew he wanted in. One of the friends in said group, who we'll call Cheshire, was the first to befriend him and give him a chance. In turn, we started to talk and actually became pretty close. Our friendship was an on and off friendship for the entirety of middle school, even though we called each other quote unquote best friends. I think he saw me as a best friend, but he wasn't my true best friend. That was a person who will play a prominent role in the finale. Anyways, back to Florigato. Freshman year is when things took a romantic turn. At the time of this, I was dating Rubik from episode 2 in this series. Rubik and Florigato ended up becoming friend-ish with one another as I had introduced the two, but with me dating Rubik and now Florigato admitting to having a crush on me, things were tricky and hard to handle at the time. Rubik was an extremely jealous and possessive person, despite literally being a cheater, and Florigato knew he was toxic and wanted me to get out of that relationship, but I didn't listen to him for whatever reason at the time. I guess I just loved Rubik even though he was a Looking back, I sincerely regret not leaving him sooner. Once Rubik and I broke up, I'd say it was a week or two later, and then Florigato and I started dating. Figured I'd give it a shot since we'd been friends for so long, and I wanted to see what dating a quote unquote best friend was like, as I hadn't done it before. Our relationship didn't last that long and it wasn't that intense. I also unfortunately didn't end up falling in love with him through the relationship either. I saw him more as a best friend than anything, but I still stayed until we broke up to be sure I couldn't fall for him. Florigato was miles above Rubik as a partner, but he was not perfect. Our incidents were confined to being just stupid little bickering sessions, so I don't see a need to have a whole section about them. We didn't have a toxic relationship, so to speak, but of course it was not perfect. No relationship I've ever had has been perfect, but I've had a couple partners who believed our relationship was perfect when it was far from it. I will be talking about those two in the next 2 episodes. Anyways, we broke up because Florigato's foster parents were extremely religious and did not want him dating anyone until he was 18, and had expressed before that they wanted him to find someone at his church who had faith and didn't want him with someone who was basically an atheist. I'm agnostic now, but back in sophomore year when I dated him, while I respected his choices to be religious, I detested religion with an iron fist. What happened was that his foster parents had noticed an increase in text messages on his phone plan or something, and he got scared and broke it off so he wouldn't get in trouble. At the time, of course, I was irritated, but I didn't cry or get super upset like with Arthur and Rubik before him. We ended up not talking for a while, but we eventually made amends. He did have a few more partners after me, and eventually our high school friendship died because I got tired of him rubbing traumatic events involving my rotten ex in my face. What I mean by that is he would tease me and mention her when I didn't even want to hear her name ever again. He knew this and used it as a haha funny kind of thing. It's like he didn't care, so that was the last straw for me. We didn't completely lose touch, but afterwards I no longer considered him a friend for a while. We eventually reconciled after graduation, and while we weren't and still aren't best friends like we were in middle school into freshman year, we still maintain a moderately healthy friendship. Florigato and I have hung out in person a couple times this year, and he's the friend I stayed with for a week to avoid the family member I didn't want to see in person, as mentioned in the previous installment about Flippy. I would like to remain in contact and friends with Florigato because he really has improved, and I admire that. I can admire someone who admits their faults and will actively try to change themselves. What I learned in this relationship is that if you don't have true feelings for someone, don't be with them. I only saw Florigato as a best friend, and while I loved him in my own way, it wasn't romantically, and our affectionate moments almost felt forced. While he was not a scapegoat like Rubik was, and yes, I had actually fallen in love with Rubik over the course of our relationship, I thought I'd give it a shot just to see how things would play out, and unfortunately, I didn't fall in love with Florigato. I've lost feelings for a partner who will be discussed in a future episode, and once I realized there was no chance of recovery for the prior feelings, I ended that relationship. Well, that's the end of episode 3. A lot less climactic than episode 2 and even the installment prior, but like Arthur, there wasn't much to talk about in regards to Florigato, as he didn't do a whole lot wrong in the relationship itself. This is actually a re recording of the episode, and I figured I would just get it over with tonight and move on to recording episode 4, which should be out shortly before New Year's if everything goes according to plan. Um, I'm looking to end this series by this coming summer because I want to move on with my life and tell other stories for this channel, not just this specific Storytime series. So, until next time, eat your veggies. See ya.